10. By the time we got across Beeman's Field and had struggled up the cindery embankment to the Great Southern and Western Main tracks, we had all taken our shirts off and tied them around our waists. We were sweating like pigs. At the top of the embankment, we looked down the tracks toward where we'd have to go. I'll never forget that moment, no matter how old I get. I was the only one with a watch, a cheap Timex I'd gotten as a premium for selling Cloverine brand salve the year before. Its hands stood at straight-up noon, and the sun beat down on the dry, shadeless vista before us with savage heat. You could feel it working to get in under your skull and fry your brains. Behind us was Castle Rock, spread out on the long hill that was known as Castle View, surrounding its green and shady common. Further down Castle River you could see the stacks of the woolen mill spewing smoke into a sky the color of gunmetal, and spewing waste into the water. The Jolly Furniture Barn was on our left, and straight ahead of us the railroad tracks, bright and heliographic in the sun. They paralleled the Castle River, which was on our left. To our right was a lot of overgrown scrubland. There's a motorcycle track there today. They have scrambles every Sunday afternoon at 2 p.m. An old abandoned water tower stood on the horizon, rusty and somehow scary. We stood there for that one noontime moment, and then Chris said impatiently, "Come on, let's get going." We walked beside the tracks in the cinders, kicking up little puffs of blackish dust at every step. Our socks and sneakers were soon gritty with it. Vern started singing Roll Me Over in the Clover, but soon quit it, which was a break for our ears. Only Teddy and Chris had brought canteens, and we were all hitting them pretty hard. "We could fill the canteens again at the dump faucet," I said. "My dad told me that's a safe well. It's 190 feet deep." "Okay," Chris said, being the tough platoon leader. "That'll be a good place to take 5 anyway." "What about food?" Teddy asked suddenly. "I bet nobody thought to bring something to eat. I know I didn't." Chris stopped. "Shit, I didn't either. Gordy?" I shook my head, wondering how I could have been so dumb. "Vern?" "Zip," Vern said. "Sorry." "Well, let's see how much money we got," I said. I untied my shirt, spread it on the cinders, and dropped my own 68 cents onto it. The coins glittered feverishly in the sunlight. Chris had a tattered $1 and 2 pennies. Teddy had 2 quarters and 2 nickels. Vern had exactly 7 cents. $2.37, I said. "Not bad. There's a store at the end of that little road that goes to the dump. Somebody'll have to walk down there and get some hamburger and some tonics while the others rest." "Who?" Vern asked. "We'll match for it when we get to the dump. Come on." I slid all the money into my pants pocket and was just tying my shirt around my waist again when Chris hollered, "Train!" I put my hand out on one of the rails to feel it, even though I could already hear it. The rail was thrumming crazily. For a moment it was like holding the train in my hand. "Paratroops over the side!" Vern bawled, and leaped halfway down the embankment in one crazy, clownish stride. Vern was nuts for playing paratroops any place the ground was soft. A gravel pit, a haymow, an embankment like this one. Chris jumped after him. The train was really loud now, probably headed straight up our side of the river toward Lewiston. Instead of jumping, Teddy turned in the direction from which it was coming. His thick glasses glittered in the sun. His long hair flopped untidily over his brow in sweat-soaked stringers. "Go on, Teddy," I said. "No, I'm going to dodge it." He looked at me, his magnified eyes frantic with excitement. "A train dodge, dig it? What's trucks after a fucking train dodge?" "You're crazy, man. You want to get killed? Just like the beach at Normandy," Teddy yelled, and strode out into the middle of the tracks. He stood on one of the cross ties, lightly balanced. I stood stunned for a moment, unable to believe stupidity of such width and breadth. Then I grabbed him, dragged him, fighting and protesting, to the embankment and pushed him over. I jumped after him, and Teddy caught me a good one in the guts while I was still in the air. The wind whooshed out of me, but I was still able to hit him in the sternum with my knee and knock him flat on his back before he could get all the way up. I landed, gasping and sprawling, and Teddy grabbed me around the neck. We went rolling all the way to the bottom of the embankment, hitting and clawing at each other while Chris and Vern stared at us, stupidly surprised. "You little son of a bitch," Teddy was screaming at me. "You fucker, don't you throw your weight around on me. I'll kill you, you dipshit." I was getting my breath back now, and I made it to my feet. I backed away as Teddy advanced, holding my open hands up to slap away his punches, half laughing and half scared. Teddy was no one to fool around with when he went into one of his screaming fits. He'd take on a big kid in that state, and after the big kid broke both of his arms, he'd bite. "Teddy, you can dodge anything you want after we see what we're going to see," but whack on the shoulder as one wildly swinging fist got past me. "Until then, no one's supposed to see us." You whack on the side of the face, and then we might have had a real fight if Chris and Vern, stupid wet end, hadn't grabbed us and kept us apart. Above us the train roared by in a thunder of diesel exhaust and the great heavy clacking of boxcar wheels. A few cinders bounced down the embankment, and the argument was over, at least until we could hear ourselves talk again. It was only a short freight, and when the caboose had trailed by, Teddy said, "I'm gonna kill him. At least give him a fat lip." He struggled against Chris, but Chris only grabbed him tighter. "Calm down, Teddy," Chris said quietly. And he kept saying it until Teddy stopped struggling and just stood there, his glasses hanging askew and his hearing aid cord dangling limply against his chest on its way down to the battery, which he had shoved into the pocket of his jeans. When he was completely still, Chris turned to me and said, "What the hell are you fighting with him about, Gordon?" "He wanted to dodge the train. I figured the engineer would see him and report it. They might send a cop out." "Ah, he'd be too busy making chocolate in his drawers," Teddy said. But he didn't seem angry anymore. The storm had passed. "Gordy was just trying to do the right thing," Vern said. "Come on, peace." "Peace, you guys," Chris agreed. "Yeah, okay," I said, and held out my hand, palm up. "Peace, Teddy?" "I could have dodged it," he said to me. "You know that, Gordy." "Yeah," I said, although the thought turned me cold inside. "I know it." "Okay, peace then." "Skin it, man," Chris ordered, and let go of Teddy. Teddy slapped his hand down on mine hard enough to sting, and then turned it over. I slapped his. "Fucking pussy LaChance," Teddy said. "Meow," I said. "Come on, you guys," Vern said. "Let's go, okay?" "Go anywhere you want, but don't go here," Chris said solemnly, and Vern drew back as if to hit him.